Hey guys, how are you?
Good morning, Hal.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good.
Good. I am just monitoring the waiting room right now. A new feature in Zoom this month that every single Zoom meeting is required to have a waiting room. It's no longer an option. And so I kind of have to manually let people into the class as they come in. So far, we're up to 17, 18. This is going to be a nice, good group today, but I'm going to take a minute to just make sure that we get everyone in. So while I'm doing that, tell me something good, guys. How was your weekend? Everybody have a good 4th of July holiday weekend? It's quiet out there. I'm going to take that as a yes.
Great weekend. How are you, Hal? It's Denise Valenti.
Oh, how are you doing? Good to see you, Denise.
Good to see you too. Missed you guys.
So give me some, let's do it this way. Let's start with some gratitude. What is it that you are the most grateful for that's happened in the past week?
That I'm busy. That I'm busy finally. I mean,
that you are busy. That is a good problem to have, is it not?
It sure is. I'm very excited. I was fortunate to put some listings on the market that went rather quickly, but I got a lot of buyer leads from it. So I'm busy with buyers right now.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Terrific.
Thank God.
You know, I think that, as we had kind of speculated and thought maybe the buyers activity has just kind of pushed back a few months. I don't think that the buyers needs have changed, that suddenly people don't need to buy a house any longer. I think the market has changed, certainly from a financing standpoint. Sometimes people don't qualify any longer because of financial reasons. But here's what I really believe. I really believe that as we now are into July, which puts us in the third quarter of the year, I really think that we're going to be in a strong position here as we finish out the year. Will the total volume be down from what we expected it to be? Absolutely. I think it will. But I do really think that there's a huge opportunity in quarters 3 and 4 to really pick up your business. So I think this is a perfect time to be taking Ignite. A couple housekeeping things right now. If good, whoever's got some noise going on in the background, I hear some banging around. If you could selectively mute yourself, that's great, because now with almost 30 people in the room, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to see who it is. I prefer to try to keep the mics open in this class if I can, so that we can have some interaction. But if it starts to get too noisy in the background, then I am going to just mute everyone and then selectively unmute you as we go. So with that, welcome. This is Ignite 2.0. This is Ignite is really been around Keller Williams now for quite a number of years. It's the industry's very, very best foundational skills course, in my estimation. And I'm not just being a Keller Williams homer on this. I've been around a lot of new agent training or foundational skills training. I've written some of it. I've been around it with other brokerages. And I think that what we've created here in Ignite takes everything that we've done and it really amped it up to a new level, especially in the 2.0 version. This version of Ignite was just written in April, or just released really in April. This is now the third time that I've taught it. I taught it once as sort of a trial run with a small group, sort of prototyping it back before the pandemic. And this is the second time that we're actually doing this during the pandemic. And so just to give you a couple things in terms of what to expect. It's a little bit modified to deliver it in this format. It's modified to deliver it in Zoom. If Ignite was running in the market centers, it would not be a 1-hour class. It would be a 3-hour class. And it would be a 3-hour class that's really designed to be taught 5 days a week. And in those 3 hours, there's 1 hour of kind of teaching, of instruction. And the other 2 hours are chances to practice what we're learning, to kind of break off into small groups and to do some role play practice, and to actually take some time and actually do lead generation in this class time. I am not really doing it that way right now in Zoom. And so one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is recognize that if you really want to make the best use of this class time, that you're going to try to take what we're teaching you and put it into practice. Put some time in your day to try to do some of this stuff, to try to practice some of this stuff. Before we're done, What we will begin to do some of is do some role play when we get to certain sections and want to do some practice. We may be breaking into smaller breakout rooms of a couple of people and doing some practice around some of the, the things that we're teaching. But know that the time that we've blocked it out right now, it's Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 11 o'clock until 12. And in this very first session, there's a little bit of an introductory part to it. I've got 29 people now in the room. So I'd just love a couple of people to kind of share with me, why are you here? What is it that you're hoping to get? What is your goal that you hope that after we're finished with this series that you've taken out of it? Anybody have some thoughts around that? Or did you just listen to Sally Ponchak, who told me yesterday she was going to make sure that people came? And Sally, you don't want to cross Sally, trust me.
Hal, if I could chime in, I've been in the business a long time, but you're always learning something new. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
And always get something out of it.
You know, one of the things, Denise, I just want to touch on with that too, is you're always learning something new, which really brings home the point that this curriculum, as much as any of the others, but this one specifically, even though it's foundational, don't think that means that once I've been exposed to the content that I've learned it and I can move on. Because there's a difference between knowledge and mastery. You know, we say that sometimes in the martial arts, the white belt and the black belt, they know the same moves. It's just that the black belt has mastered them through repetition. And so these courses, which are free, so you don't have to pay for these, they really are designed to take them again and again and again, because as you hear it a second time, different things are going to jump out at you. As you're in a different place in your business, you'll understand things a different way. I think the mistake that sometimes people say is, oh, Ignite's coming around. I took that 6 months ago. I don't need to take it again. And what I would say is, you know, until you've achieved mastery, until you've become the black belt, it's probably worth repetition, right? Or at least selectively repeating certain sessions, right? What else would people like to get out of here? It was a great point, Denise, in terms of you're always learning and always growing. Anything else that you're hoping to get by being in this course? It may come to you as we go. And so in the interest of time, don't hesitate to throw that up into the chat box or just share. I'm going to just start with some housekeeping things here. And in order to do that, I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you where you can find the Ignite course material online. And I would like you to download some of this. Can you see my KW internet page? I believe you should be able to see that on your screen. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, good. In the education button here, when you're here, in this education tab, you're going to click on that button. It's going to take you into Keller Williams University. There's a lot of great resources here. And you'll notice that on the right-hand side, it says Ignite 2.0 and it says regular Ignite. This is the old version. This is the new version. You want to go into the new version here, right? Ignite 2.0, the new and enhanced version. And when you click on it, it takes you to a description page, course page. And then as you scroll down, I want you to go here where it says participant resources. And when you click on this little red button, you're going to see, and I'm going to explain how we've broken this course into two sections. The first section we call sparks, right? Now think about ignition. This is all sort of a fire theme. We have a spark and we have elements. And sparks are kind of the parts of this that are really focused on getting you into production, kind of doing the activities and getting your business up and off the ground. And elements is more focused on kind of keeping your business running. And we start with sparks and we move on to elements. And every one of these sessions, when you click on it, this is the one we're going to do today, Fuel Your Career. It's just going to take you to the manual. There's 14 pages in this manual. What I'd love for you to do is just download this manual. You can see that little download arrow right here, I believe. Download this manual, because there will be some times as we go on in these sessions that there's going to be activities to do or things that I'd want you to take a look at, which will be in your manual, but not in the PowerPoint. So the first thing I want you to do is to go to the Ignite 2.0 page and download these manuals free of charge. But there's also something that I want you to download. See this button here that says Toolkit? I want you to download this one as well. And when you download the Toolkit, it's already telling me that I've already got it downloaded. So let me show you what's in the Toolkit. So give me a second here. Unzip the Toolkit. And then I'll share my screen one more time. Okay, all right, Toolkit's open. In this new screen share, you're gonna see all these files are in that Toolkit. And there's tools, right? There's tools, there's a buyer lead sheet that helps you qualify your buyers. There's checklists to take a look at when you're reviewing offers. There's checklists to take a look at when you're preparing an offer or writing an offer. There's cover letter templates. There's script books. For each section, the Spark section and the Ignite element section have their own scripts, which we'll be talking about. Download those script books, right? Open house tools, sign-in sheets, safety tips, all kinds of things that are designed to be a resource for you that are in the Ignite toolkit. And we're going to get through, we're going to touch all of these over the course of these sessions. But I want you just as prep, what I want you to do is I want you to go to the KW page. I want you to download all this material, download the toolkit so that you're ready to rock with us. Any questions around that? Or where to find that again? Just one last time to show you the breadcrumb trail. If we go all the way out, and then we click on the education button, and then we click on Ignite 2.0 button, and then materials, participant resources. This is where it is. All right. So I know you probably didn't do that for today, so we're going to be fine with today. But going forward, I'd love for you to have all that stuff ready before we jump into class together. Sound good? Any questions around that I can answer for you? If not, then let us get going here because it is now almost quarter after. I should have shared my screen one more time, and this now is the PowerPoint, and you should be able to see Fuel Your Career. Just give me a quick heads up that tells me that you can see that. I don't see any or hear anybody, so I want to make sure. There you go. All right, cool. Outstanding. So let's kind of just get going. You know, this starts with asking the question, not just what are you hoping to get out of this, but why are you even doing this? Why are you, and doing this, I mean real estate. What is it about a career in real estate that has you excited or interested? Or are you excited and interested? You know, one of the things I want you to just think about is, you know, what would it be like if you woke up this morning and everything was perfect? Like everything, you had the life that you wanted. You had enough money to do whatever you wanted without any kind of strain or struggle. You were living where you wanted to be. You were spending time with the people who mattered the most to you. You know, what charities would you support? What causes would you get involved in? You know, the purpose of business is to create enough profit that you can fund your perfect life. And so we start this series really asking you to just take some time and really start to think that through. And it's important because anytime you embark on a new endeavor of any kind, you're going into an area where it's going to cause you to have to do things differently than you've done them before, to have to learn new things. You know, the pathway between where you are today and where you want to go is a journey that we call doing things that are different than you've ever done before. And what we know is that human nature tells us that doing things that are unfamiliar, especially as adults, is a little unnerving at times. It's hard at times. You know, as adult learners, we move through these phases of growth where we move from being unconsciously incompetent, meaning I don't even know what I don't know. When I first decided to get into real estate, I knew some things about what I wanted and what I thought it would be. But is there anyone, quick show of hands, or put in the chat box, any quick show of hands, has anybody found that there's more to the real estate business than you understood when you decided to sign up for your pre-licensing class? How many people found it's a little bit different? Quick show of hands. And if it's different, it's going to cause you to move into this next phase of learning that we call conscious incompetence. I suddenly realized it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I suddenly realized that I'm not prepared. I suddenly realized that there's more to learn. And I suddenly become painfully aware that I'm not competent yet. And for most adults, that is a really difficult place to be. You know, children don't struggle with that at all. Children learn in a way where there's no critical judgment around that, because the part of their brain that becomes self-critical doesn't even develop until later. Probably in God's wisdom, you know, God, he or she decided that let's not freak kids out. Let's let them learn. But with adults, what happens is we get to this place where we suddenly realize that we don't have it down, we're not perfect, and we want to look good and we want to do the right thing. And it causes us to really stress. And with courses like this, and with doing the activities in practice and time on task over time, what happens is you begin to become competent. Competent in the sense that you learn how to do things, you learn how to do them right in the very beginning. You might need to think about every step along the way. And at some point through repetition, the black belt and the white belt know the same moves, but the black belts mastered them through repetition. Through repetition, that mastery becomes unconscious. You don't have to think about it anymore. But this process it causes you to stretch. It causes you to, you know, all growth is stretching outside of your comfort zone. And it doesn't always feel great. And so you need to have an anchor as to, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? Because if there's nothing that, when you're facing the choice of doing something that makes you stretch into an uncomfortable place, or just not doing it, unless there's a motivational push, a motivational driver, most of us are just gonna bail out, right? First thing I want you to think about is, you know, what do you want your life to be? And here's the follow-up question to that. How much are you willing to sacrifice to make that real? That is a question that a lot of people don't love hearing right out of the gate from a guy like me. But I have been doing this as a top agent when I was actively selling, as a trainer, as a coach, as someone who's managed other companies, as someone who's owned my own brokerages. What I can tell you is that the pathway to where you want to get to is going to have to cause you to make some sacrifices. And they don't have to be life-threatening sacrifices, but you're going to have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And so what do you want? Do you want it enough to be uncomfortable sometimes so that you can grow, so that you can stretch? What are you playing for? Very first part of this course starts with asking you to think about that and spending some time with people who have a stake in that decision as well. Spending some time with the people in your life, your spouse, your family, your children, whoever has a stake, and making it not just what do I want, but what do we want? And how does my creating a professional real estate career add to that? How much money does it take? How much do I have to bring in through this endeavor so that we can really together create the life that we want as a family, and maybe even grow the opportunity to have the ability to leave a legacy? It's not just paying the bills. It's not just taking care of our immediate things now, but even having enough that we can make an impact in the world. How big is your why? Very first part of this class, like so many others that we teach, really asks you to think about that. And I'm going to ask you to spend some time with that question. But here's what we know. Success leaves clues. You know, people have lived before us. You know, the great Tony Robbins, who is one of the great coaches of all time, personal development people, he says all the time, success leaves clues. And if you want to be successful, what you should do is model from people who have had success before us. People have lived before us and they've left a path for us to follow. And what we know by studying the success patterns of the most successful agents is that there's clues. There's a couple of key things that successful agents do every day. They spend some time growing their business, and we're going to define growing your business in these 4 sets of activities. They generate leads for buyers and sellers. They make presentations to sellers and get listings. They make presentations to buyers and get buyer listings that we call having a signed buyer's agency contract. I'm going to tweak the language here on KW. And if you were in the new agent launch class at 10 o'clock, we were talking about a buyer's consultation. I think really great agents, not only do they make presentations and provide information, because presenting is a telling action. Whereas consulting is a questioning action. It's asking great questions so that people can come to their own realization, self-awareness about their motivations and about their desires. But what we know is that successful agents, they generate leads for buyers and sellers. They work with sellers to take listings. They work with buyers to get buyers to work with them. And they preview real estate. They have to see the inventory. They've got to know their product. And they constantly get real clear on the fact that they have to know the product in advance of the buyer wanting to see it. They have to know the product well enough that when they talk to a seller, that they can look at comparables and they can help determine value based on their knowledge of the product. We have to be looking at inventory every day. Inventory online, we've got to be taking a look at it on the MLS. Now, real quick, just put in the chat box for me, if you would, anyone who does not yet have MLS access. I know that the process of getting hired and getting all the tools in place, and some of those are the MLS. If you do not yet have MLS access, just throw that into the chat box for me. I don't believe that we're going to need it for this class, but I just kind of want to know where people are if you don't have it, because you do want to be previewing real estate. And some of it you'll preview online. You're going to take a search of all the new inventory in your target market, and you're going to look at those listings. You're going to look at those pictures. But I'm going to tell you that online isn't always the same as in person, right? Natalie says she doesn't have New Jersey yet. She has New York. Okay, well, then you can continue to preview property for New York right now. But what we know is that online, things can look very different than in person. Sometimes homes feel like the flow is different than you thought it was going to be. Sometimes homes feel bigger, they feel smaller. Certainly any flaws that are in the home are not going to show up in the pictures presented there. And so I see a couple of names here, people that don't yet have access. Again, I don't think that's going to be a problem yet, but you're going to want to preview homes. And in the absence of being able to preview the agent's version of these homes on the New Jersey MLS, then what I would simply say is just go to the public version of it and preview the homes the same way that a customer would see them. You're not going to see all the agent notes yet, and that would be better, but you're still going to be able to see the pictures of the house, the features of the house, the price of the house, the location of the house, and you can do that just going to njmls.com, the public portal, and preview real estate there for now. But every day, we're taking a look at inventory, but seeing it in person is better than seeing it online, because then you're going to really get a feel for yourself of how this property really, really stacks up. And so what we say in this course is we want you to preview 10 homes a day online, look at least 10 a day online, but every single week we want you to get into 10 and actually see them. And in this pandemic world, that had been harder for a while. Now things are opening up. It's easier, although you may find some sellers and you may find some listing agents who, if you're just previewing and not necessarily bringing a buyer, they may ask you to hold off, right? Do what you can. These are unusual times, right? But the point is, in the best of all worlds, seeing it in person is what you really want, because that gives you a really, really good understanding of what the house is. In the toolkit, where I showed you before, there's actually a preview tool, I believe, where you go through and it asks you to take notes. And it guides you on what to look for as you're previewing these homes. You know, what kind of heating system does it have? Is it forced hot? Is it forced air? Is it hot water heat? Is it steam heat? Is it a baseboard radiator? Is it a different kind of whatever? What is the cooking source? Is it gas? Is it propane? Is it electric? All the different things. Is the basement finished? What type of heating source? Do we have oil? Is the tank inside, outside? All those kinds of things are on a sort of a preview tool that lives inside your toolkit. So as you're previewing homes, you're not just looking at them and saying, wow, that's really pretty, but you're really learning them. You're understanding them. What buyers want is for you to help them make decisions on what's the best home for them based on your detailed knowledge. So every single day on the Grow Your Business side, lead generating, making presentations and consulting appointments with buyers and sellers to get people to work with us, previewing inventory on the Run Your Business side. What agents do every single day is they spend some time marketing their listings and then showing buyers houses and negotiating contracts and managing the transactions step by step, managing the relationships with their vendor partners. setting goals for their business, compliance issues, making sure that your files are complete, risk management's attended to, all those things as a business person, getting the training that you need, certainly learning how to manage your money. All these topics are topics that we're going to cover in this Ignite series. But success leaves clues. And so every day we're going to be focusing on these kinds of activities, and all of the different modules that we teach are going to be touching on some of these activities, right? And so what is a spark? I said this course is broken into two parts, sparks and elements. Well, here's what we refer to as sparks. Well, in fact, let me even start this with a little bit of a guest visit from the one and only, the Mr. Gary Keller. I'm going to let Gary talk a little bit about this course, and then we'll get into sparks. Gary, what do you have to say for yourself?
Hi, I'm Gary Keller. This course will allow you to get off to a fast start you can build on. Because if you repeated the principles every 90 days for a year, believe me, you have an awesome first year. And just as important, you would have built the foundation and momentum for your entire career. It is practical, realistic, and easy to apply. It's about the fundamentals that determine your level of success in the business of real estate. From our research with top agents, we have found that they too started their careers with these fundamentals, and they continue to do them along with their teams to this very day. And it's not hard. It just requires a little focused effort, a few hours every day. Now, there is really just one way to achieve the goal. It's lead generation. Other skills are important, yet without leads to work with, your skills won't mean a thing. Dealing with business never takes precedence over what? Finding business. Never. Research shows that top producing agents make lead generation their #1 priority and the one thing they make sure they always get done. You can do this. And when you do, you will get the leads, the relationships, the experiences, the career, and the income that you want and deserve. Go get them, and good luck.
All right, that's Gary. And I just like some feedback if you would either unmute yourself or throw in the chat box. Anything that Gary said there that got your attention?
I am Gary Keller.
Oh, we don't need to hear from you a second time, Gary. We're good. What else? What did he say? Anything that he said to strike you? Anybody? Let me just take a look here in the chat box and see if there's anything there. No. Lead generation, Rick. He said lead generation, right? And one of the things that he said about lead generation, which I just really want you to hear, is that taking care of business never takes precedent over finding business. So much of what we believe we need to master is how to serve clients. And we do need to master how to serve clients. Make no mistake, if you don't provide world-class service, you're not going to stay in business. But if you don't have anybody to work with, you're not even in business yet. And so there is a certain amount of learning that you need to have so that you know what to do when an opportunity comes. But what I want you to understand right now is that you've got backup right now. If you're not really feeling ready to handle clients because you don't know what to do, understand that you have a team leader. Understand that you have me. Understand that you have other people who will backstop you. No one is going to let you, get out there and make a fool of yourself. But what I will tell you is that you've got to generate the leads first. And you're going to generate leads and opportunities even before you think you're ready to deal with them. Sometimes it's like a mama bird. I have a bird's nest out in one of our trees recently, and I was watching one day where the birds were fledgling, and mama just took one of them, pushed the bird right out, and the bird kind of just dropped to the ground. And here's what happens. Sometimes you just got to trust that you're gonna build your wings on the way down. Right? You're going to have to trust that you can jump even though you're not ready, and you're going to be fine. Gary says that lead generation isn't complicated. It just takes a little focused effort every day. Nothing else about your business will have as big an impact as how many leads you have to work with, right? Anything else that you heard Gary say that struck you before we move on in this presentation today? Build it from the bottom up with a solid foundation. Billy jumped in with that. Yeah, right? Absolutely. The models are the foundation that you're going to build your business on. What you're going to hear in Ignite 2.0 is what are the models? People have lived before us. We don't have to make this up ourselves. What are the foundational models that you're going to build your business, and your business is going to look different and unique than other people's businesses. But if it's built on a strong foundation, it's going to be strong. It's going to be fine. Nobody builds a house by starting with the roof. You've got to build the foundation, right? All right, let's move on quickly. I asked the question, what's a spark? And here's how this course is broken down into two parts. It's called Sparks and it's called Elements. And you see, Sparks is kind of this series of curlicues. It's like the lightning loops roller coaster down a great adventure. It just goes around and around and around. And in the first kind of 2 weeks of this course are Sparks. And they're kind of getting into your first appointments. It's doing the activities and learning what you need to do so that you can get into your first appointments. And some of you have already done business. I get that. It's good to go back and review these ideas again, but some of you haven't done business. And so the reason why it's kind of set up as a curlicue is you kind of just keep going around and around and around until you've mastered these skills, until you've got people to work with. And then it makes sense to kind of move on into elementals. So what am I saying? I'm not saying that if we get through the first 2 weeks and you don't have clients to work with, that you shouldn't move on to the second half of this course. It's not really what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you're finding that you're not generating enough leads to work with, I'd probably go back and revisit these topics and Sparks kind of again and again and again. And the thing that you're going to find is that so much of what we start with really has to do with your sphere of influence. Your first opportunities are going to come from people who you already have influence with, people who know you, people who like you, people who trust you. It's way easier to get business either doing business with folks or getting referrals from folks who are already on your team, who are already on your side. You know, the NAR says that 66% of sellers and 41% of buyers do business with someone they already know or someone referred by a friend. And so if on average, you know, roughly half or better of all the business that you do is going to come from relationships you already have, then that's where we're going to start, right? We're going to start with relationships you already have. So here's what I'm going to ask you to take your phone. Everybody take your phone out for a second. What I want you to do is grab your phone and open it up to where it says contacts. And what I want you to do is go to the contacts section of your phone, and I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And at the very bottom, it will tell you how many total contacts do you have in your phone. What I'd love for you to do is scroll down, take a look at what that number is, and then either put it in the chat box or just tell me. I want to hear some numbers as to how many people you guys have in your phones right now. And I'll open up the chat box so I can watch that as well.
I have 1,000. Oh, I lost it. 1,000. Well, I lost it. 966.
1,566. I see Amanda with 687. I see 360, 363. So here's what I want you to understand. Well, let me ask you a question, another question. 463, I see some numbers, 431. Would you say that you know everyone in your telephone well? Is there anybody in there who you don't really know that well? There's a name, but you're like, I wonder who that is. Or does that only happen to me? If you're like most of us, your database, right? Your contact list is a combination of people that truly are your sphere of influence, people that know you, like you, and you know who they are. You have a real relationship with them. And then other people that they kind of got into your phone, but you're not really sure who they are. Either way, one of the things that you just have to recognize is, according to research, 6% of the population will be involved in a real estate action every single year. 6% of the population will be involved, whether you know them well or you don't, will be involved in real estate action every single year. So if you take your numbers, and Noelle, I see your number right on the top of my screen, so I'm going to pick on you. If you take your 431 contacts in your phone and you multiply that by 6%, what you have is 25.86, which we can loosely round up to 26. 26 people in your phone, Noelle, are probably going to have a real estate action this year. Would it be nice to do it with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How is that going to happen? Well, it's not just going to happen unless we influence that. And when you look at these numbers, guys, 868, I have, Reza says, I have 6 Kevins in my phone and I only know 2 of them. I am so happy that I'm not the only person who has a phone like that, Reza, because anyway, my point is we're going to start in Sparks with your database, people that you already know, right? It starts with your sphere, right? And so people that you've met in one shape or form, one way or the other, understand that when we talk about this sphere, there's a lot of terms that get used interchangeably and they're not the same. There's the term database, which loosely corresponds to your entire phone list. Even the 4 Kevins that you don't know, they're still part of your database. And in the language of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, when that book was written by Gary Keller, 2004, we used to define people that were in our database that we did not really know as haven't met you yet, but I know who you are. At least I know your contact information, but I just haven't met you yet. And once people sort of get cajoled and nurtured in such a way that they raise their hand and they reach out to us, now we have met them and they're more of the Kevins that we do know, right? But some of the people that we've met, we don't have influence over all of those. Right? There is our sphere, and then there's our sphere of influence. Not everybody do you have influence over. I mean, hell, I don't have influence over half of my people that live in my house. And so what you have to recognize is where we're going to start. Well, we're going to start with our entire database. We're going to start with people that we have relationships with. But the fastest pathway to get into activity is to reach out to the people that we have influence over, our sphere of influence, and really start to nurture those relationships and really look to them for help. One of the scripts that is not, it doesn't have to be done word for word. It's not that kind of a script. It's more of a dialogue, really. But it's a conversation that I think it's really important to have with the people that really, really, really you can count on to have your back in tough times. It's like the question I ask is like, if you were in a bar fight, and please don't get in a bar fight, but if you were in a bar fight and you needed somebody in your phone to come and help you, like who loves you enough that they would come and help you? That's the person you start with. And that call goes out to that person and the conversation sounds like this, I need your help. As you know, I've started, or maybe you don't know, I've started a career in real estate and I'm working with Keller Williams Realty. And I know that you're somebody who gets me and somebody who knows me and somebody who wants to help me do this well. Who do you know that I should be talking to? Who do you know that needs a realtor to help them buy, sell, or invest in real estate this year? I love to start asking for help with the person in your sphere of influence who you know is there for you. And that's a small group, right? It's a pretty small group. There's a lot of people that love you, but they ain't going to get into a bar fight with you. That you're on your own there. It's that real small group that we ask for help for. And everyone else, we kind of have to nurture a little bit differently, right? But it starts with your sphere because that's where the best chances of getting into activity are going to be. I want you to think about these waves. And what are these waves? Well, if we think about everyone that's in our database, what we know is some of them are going to have a real estate action this year, and a lot of them are not. And if you think about this model, at the top of the wave here is at the moment when they need the professional services of a realtor. And once they've bought, sold, invested, rented, whatever they've done, then the bottom of the wave here is the fact that they just took that action and now they don't need you again for a while. That's the nature of our business. It's cyclical. They don't need us every day. It's not something that they do frequently. And it's kind of like a dentist. When you're not needing a dentist, you're not really thinking much about your dentist. But the day you need a dentist, there's nobody else that you're thinking about that day. And here's what happens. We have to stay in touch with our sphere, with our database, because we don't really always know where they are on this point. This is when they need us. This is when they don't. From the time that they don't need us anymore till the time they need us again, there's all these little checkoffs as they're progressing towards needing us again, or maybe an opportunity to refer us. But we've got to stay engaged with them all along this pathway until they're ready to need us again. And so what it requires is that we have a systematic way of doing that. That we have a systematic way of staying engaged, and we do it constantly again and again and again, because we're never sure. If I was to ask you to go back into your phone and find all the people that you truly do know, and then if I asked you the question, when will they need a realtor next? Do you know? And for a lot of us, the likelihood is, no, I really don't know. I mean, I know them and I know all kinds of things about them, but I don't really know where they are on this journey. Well, that's where we've got to get engaged. And so one of the ways that we do it is we stay in touch, and we recognize that staying in touch isn't constantly showing up again and again and again and saying, do you need a realtor now? Do you need a realtor now? Do you need a realtor now? I mean, that gets really tedious. And just think about it. I mean, if the only time you heard from a friend is when they wanted to know if you could provide something for them, I mean, what kind of a friendship is that? I mean, if you had a friend who was an accountant and the only time that you saw that friend, the only thing they asked you about was your finances, at some point, are you going to say, this is not a really fun friendship? Or at some point, are you going to cut this knucklehead off? And the answer for most of us is probably. What we have to do is recognize that the way we stay engaged is around things that are meaningful to the relationship, right? And we talk about this Ford method. Ford, which is an abbreviation for F, family, O, occupation, R, recreation, D, dreams. The conversations along that journey from when they don't need us till they do need us sometimes are going to be real estate related, but more often they're going to be, hey, how's everything going on with the family? You know, how are the kids doing? You know, are the kids going to go back to school this year, in school, out of school? How's that looking? Tell me about work. How's work going for you right now with this pandemic, right? When the first waves of this pandemic hit, we were spending so much time, rightly so, just placing check-in calls. Hey, how are you doing? What can I do to help you, right? Family, occupation, recreation, you know, now that things are opening up, what are you interested in? What are your hobbies? What are your dreams, right? If we can kind of use this model, this Ford model, as a way of shaping the conversations that we have, then every single touch doesn't become, who do you know? Are you ready for a real estate agent yet? There was an agent years ago when I was managing a different KW office. I back in 2004, I think. No, it was 2001. No, 2011. God, I'm dating myself. 2011. Don't get old. These numbers get to be a blur. In 2011, I opened up the Keller Williams office in Montclair. I was the first team leader. It was a brand new office. We launched it. We won the award for the #1 new Keller Williams franchise office in the world that year. And there was one really, really great agent who worked for another company who I really wanted to recruit to join us in our company. And she never did come. A lot of her colleagues did. And for a variety of reasons, which I won't get into now, she never did make that move. However, what I learned was from her colleagues that one of the things that was her practice is every single day before she went home, she would pick up her phone and she would randomly dial 5 people in her phone, and she would have a Ford question. And it was just, hey, you know what? I was thinking about you. I was driving down the street and I saw the marching band practicing on the high school field. And I think, as I remember correctly, your daughter's in the band this year. They look pretty good. How's she doing? It was that kind of a question. Or maybe it was, you know, I was thinking about you and I was just planning a trip that now that we can travel again, we're going to drive and maybe spend some time in Martha's Vineyard. And I know how much you'd enjoy that. It made me think of you. I just thought I'd pick up the phone and ask how you're doing, right? And these were not real estate asks. These were not, who do you know? These were simply, you're a person in my life. You matter to me. I'm thinking about you. And that's it, right? And she made 5 of those calls a day, and she stayed in touch again and again and again and again. And what happened was, because she was so involved and so engaged, when they did need a realtor, who do you think they used? Every time it was her, because she had a relationship. Simon Sinek, who is one of the great thinkers in the space of entrepreneurship, says the purpose of business is not to try to get into a relationship with customers who need what you provide. The purpose of business is to get into a relationship with people who kind of live and think and breathe in the world the same way that you do, and build a relationship with them. And then when they need what you provide, you're going to be the one they choose because you've got a relationship. And so we start in Sparks with who do you already have? We're going to get to lead gen, trust me. Success leaves clues. Lead generation every day, filling that funnel and adding more people to your world is a critical skill that we've got to learn how to do. But if you just do the math in your phones right now, most of us have enough business in our phones to get us to where we want to be financially if we can convert them. And so these conversations are, you know, don't fear your sphere, just talk, build relationships, right? And so know the tools. We have different tools on how to do that, right? This is not a class on command per se. We will be using command and looking at command throughout this course, but we've got the Keller Cloud and the Kelly app, and we've got the virtual command platform. We've got a market center command platform, the KW app and the web for consumers, all these different things. Ignite 2.0, what I really love is it talks about these foundational skills and how do we leverage the tools to kind of make our business grow the right way. So we will be talking about command and the Keller Williams technology throughout. When the time comes, I'm gonna show you certain things in command, but what I'm gonna say is that if you really wanna learn command, it won't be here in Ignite. You're gonna need to learn the tools. Every single professional needs to learn the tools of their craft. And command is one of them. And so if you're not taking the time to carve out to learn how to use command, then you're going to have problems, right? And the easiest way to do that, we've got a lot of great classes between Elisa and Chris Gareff and Reese and all the folks who teach the wonderful, wonderful classes on KW in the Zoom links. And a lot of those live on the Keller Williams Bergen County Partners YouTube channel. A lot of those things are there, or maybe in the Facebook group. You can learn a lot about command by just rewatching those classes. If you don't have as much time as some of those classes require, some of those are hour long. If you just want a little bit of a soundbite, I would encourage you to get familiar with a YouTube channel created by a guy named Marty Miller, who is a productivity coach and runs a big team out of Houston, Texas. And it's called the Keller Williams 66-Day Challenge, the Keller Williams Command 66-Day Challenge, I believe. And if you do that, you're going to want version 3.0 because he's run this 3 different times as command has evolved. And what the 66-Day Challenge is it's based on the principle that it takes 66 days to really instill a habit. An activity that you do consistently for 66 days on average is kind of where that activity becomes habitualized. And that's what the research tells us. And it's a squishy number because some habits come faster, some habits come slower. But the 66-day habit is premised on if you, once a day for 66 days, watched a little bit of a snippet on command, you're going to learn it. And you're going to learn it well. And these videos are not an hour long. These videos are maybe 6 minutes long, 7 minutes long. They're specific to a very specific task. How do you put a client into command, into your database? How do you put somebody on a smart plan? And rather than spend a whole hour, you can just learn what you need to learn in a couple of minutes. So between the classes that we teach, Chris, Elise, Reese, all the others in our BCP classrooms, and in what Marty does on the YouTube channel, the 66-Day Challenge, you're going to learn command, you're going to learn it well, but you're going to need to. Because no professional carpenter, no professional painter, no professional surgeon is going to be successful until they've got mastery over their tools, right? And so we've got these tools here, and it's command. Now, quick questions before we go on. Any questions that you have and anything that we've set up until now? For those of you who are in the onboarding phase, you do not have access to command yet. However, you can go watch those videos on the Bergen County Partners YouTube channel. You can go watch Marty's stuff on 66-Day Challenge, even though you don't have the ability, if you're still being onboarded perhaps, to actually get into your command database yet. But I wouldn't discourage you from watching it. I think the more familiarity you can create around these tools, the easier it is to pick things up once you are finally kind of into the technology and that's been turned on for you. But it starts with your sphere, right? The whole premise of Sparks is that we're starting with our sphere, and it's different in Ignite this time than it was before. Because in the past, We spend a lot of time with Ignite talking about working with buyers, talking about working with sellers. We spend a lot of time working with people who are trying to sell their homes privately as for sale by owners, maybe had tried to sell their home and they couldn't, and then we call those expired listings or withdrawn listings. And we're not starting there anymore. Those are skills that you will learn. You will pick them up along the way, but those are a little bit more advanced. What we know is that the vast majority of people work with people they already know, like, and trust. It's just the faster pathway we've learned to get you into your database first. And then we'll teach you the skills of all of these other lead generation techniques. In fact, the follow-up course to Ignite, which I toggle back and forth, is a course that we call Lead Generation 3612-3. And that's another acronym, another abbreviation. I don't know what it is about this company that everything's this sort of weird code, but 3612-3, which we just finished last week, says, what would it need to take for you to generate 36 transactions over 12 months with 3 hours a day of focused lead generation? Like, what would that look like? How would we do it? And we spend a lot of time in that class doing a deeper dive on things like open houses for sale by owners, expireds, all that stuff. But for Ignite, we're just starting right in your database, right? Starting with people who know you, like you, and trust you. Learn how to put people in your database. If you haven't already learned how to do that, the homework assignment that I would give you between now and Wednesday would be to either go watch one of our BCP videos or go watch one of Marty's videos on the 66-day challenge and learn how do you open up your KW command database? How do you put someone in? And that's the first step that I'd encourage you to kind of master over the next couple of days. Now, the toolkit, I just want to show you what's in there, right? Again, I talked about that toolkit. There are in there what we call resource job aids, script books, buyer lead sheets. I think I walked you through just a list of those things. Please make sure when you get off of this call before you come back on Wednesday that you go and you download that toolkit. You're going to need it. And you're going to love it because these tools are going to help you in your business. They're going to help you just like any other professional person. When you've got the right tools, it makes your life easier. I learned that from my dad, who was a carpenter. And my dad, and actually my father-in-law also was an engineer. And these guys were both guys that had the right tool for every job. And my dad always told me that there's a right tool for every job. And if you don't have the right tools, you're going to try to do it with a screwdriver and a hammer, and you're going to screw it up. Get the right tool, right? And so the toolkit is here for you. Download it, make sure you have it. Right? That's going to be really important as we finish out this course. So preparing for success, here's the modules. Today is just kind of the intro, fueling your career. Next, we're moving on to lead generation as the core of your business. We're going to talk about language and how the words that you use and the scripted language. And if you're not sure that you're ready to kind of think about being scripted right now, I would say stay in curiosity. I don't want you to learn scripts so that you sound robotic. I don't want you to learn scripts so you sound inauthentic. What I want you to learn is how the words that we use, which quite honestly are the tools of our trade. Our job is to influence people to buy, sell, or invest. Our job is to influence people to make decisions and to get into action. And the only way that we can influence them is through the things we say to them. And so knowing how to say and what to say is really important. So we're going to have a module here on language, right? Powerful language gets results. We're going to talk about how do you build your database, nurture that database? How do you set goals in your business that really matter? How do you learn how to determine what is your unique value proposition, and how do you deliver that in a way that compels people to want to work with you over the myriad of agents that they could choose? 1.4 million agents in the United States today, 70,000 almost in New Jersey alone, 16,000 in Bergen County alone. Why would they pick you? Well, it's going to be because you've got unique value to bring, and learning how to figure out what that is, articulate that, and present that as a module. Working with buyers, finding and winning over the buyers, finding and winning over seller leads. And then kind of the final module in here is kind of a chronicle of what does a day in the life of a really typical day look like for a good, strong agent. And then there's an opportunity to put some market center specific classes in there. We may actually do a class in there on errors and omission kinds of problems and the things that get agents into trouble. It's not part of the Ignite curriculum per se, but it's probably something that we're going to add in just so that when you're out there, you don't make a mistake that does get you sued. And then we move into the elements modules. We're going to talk about prospecting. We're going to talk about marketing and open houses and seller appointments and buyers consultations and making and receiving offers and negotiation and how to structure your individual business so that you're profitable. The financial basics that agents have to understand, right? Contract to close processes, and then maybe some things that are specific to the market centers. But these are the ways that Ignite goes. Remember, Sparks is kind of that curly Q roller coaster. If you're not generating appointments yet, probably pays to take a second lap through here. But once you're generating business, then we start to focus here. And again, for Ignite 2.0, it's nothing wrong with running through the whole thing. But after this is done, if you're looking to grow your business, spend more time revisiting the Sparks. If you're learning how to manage your business, spend more time revisiting the elements. We teach this every other month. We toggle back and forth between Ignite, lead gen, Ignite, lead gen. And this time around, we're recording these, and there will be a recording library. The entire Lead Gen 3612.3 course is recorded with all the mistakes that I've made in my teaching and all. It's recorded for posterity. It's up on the Bergen County Partners YouTube channel. Go back and watch those if you want, as will be these Ignite series. We didn't record the first time out back in April. We hadn't really mastered Zoom well enough to make those recordings happen, but I'm recording them now. These should be posted up into the YouTube channel once these are done. So go back and revisit as you want to. All right, that said, we're going to end it on the 10-4 habit. There is this thing in Ignite that we talk about, and it's based on the premise that knowledge is important, understanding is great, but knowledge, if it doesn't lead to action, is meaningless. Last year, I launched my own coaching company back in December that I called Transformative Action Coaching and Consulting. And though, while I do have some real estate agents that I coach, I also coach small business owners and maybe some nonprofit executives and how to grow those businesses. But the reason why I chose to name the company Transformative Action is because the only thing that leads to change, to transformation, is action. You know, knowledge for knowledge's sake is great, but knowledge that doesn't lead into changes in action and behavior doesn't make any impact in the world. And so what are the actions that we want you to take while you're doing Ignite? Well, there's something we call the 10-4. There's a certain set of activities that we want you to do habitually. We want you to grow and manage your database. Keep adding to that database and nurture it. And we'd love you to figure out, how can you find 10 new people a day to put in your database? And they could be people that you've met at an event, or people that you've met at an open house, or people that you followed. Maybe you got them into your database because they followed an ad that you posted on Facebook. But what would need to happen for you to add 10 new people into your database every day? Growing your database is one of our habitual activities. Success leaves clues. Every day, we're going to ask you to try to figure out how to get 10 people in. Then we're going to ask you to just stay in touch. Do the same kinds of phone calls, those forward phone calls. Speak with 10 people who are already in your world, right? How you doing? Who's thinking about you? These can be, pick up the telephone. These can be text messages. These can be social media inbox messages. These can be freaking smoke signals if you want them to be. I don't care, as long as they're two-way dialogues. Because a one-way pushed message, if I leave a message on your voicemail and you don't call me back, that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for conversation, because in the relationship of the conversation is where that relationship grows stronger and where you can become more influential. So we're going to ask you to find a way to add 10 new people to your database every day. Talk to 10 people who are already in your world every day. Follow up with people that you recently put into your database with a handwritten note. And the reason why we encourage handwritten notes and we're fans of them is because a handwritten note feels different when you get them. You know, I have here in my desk drawer a whole package of these handwritten notes. And as I put people in my database, I frequently will write a note that says, hey, it was great to meet you. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. If there's anything I can ever do for you, feel free to reach me. You don't have to write a lot in there. You don't want to write a lot. But because it was handwritten, it signifies that you are important to me. And how do you feel, guys, when you go to your mailbox and you've got a handwritten note? Does it feel different than the other mail that you get? Is it the first thing you can't wait to open? Every time you get that little envelope that's about this big with a handwritten note on it, it feels like you've been invited to a party, and everybody loves parties. And when you open it up, what it says is, hey, you know, you matter to me. And it feels good. And so we ask you to do that 10 times a day. And if you can't do it through handwritten notes, if you don't want to send the notes, I don't want you to just send emails. There's nothing special about an email. Now, a video email, perhaps, if you took your phone and you opened up your camera and you put it on video and you spun the camera around to your face and you spoke that message as maybe a 15, 20, or 30-second video, and then you emailed that video to someone. So when they opened it up, they saw you say something. Hey, that works too. That feels special. That feels different. But the point is, these 10-4 habits in 10 actions in 4 key areas, add people to your database, nurture the relationships you already have, make the new people in your database know that they're important and make them feel special. I love the quote from the wonderful poet Maya Angelou, who said, people will forget what you've done. They'll forget what you've said, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And when you make people feel special, they like you. And the final thing that we want you to do every day is preview inventory. Take a look at 10 a day. If you can't get into the MLS yet, then go to the public portal of it. Pick the town that you want to focus on, and we're going to talk about geographic anchoring a little bit later in this course. But pick the town that you want to focus on and just start to get familiar with the inventory. And when you do have the ability to go out and see them at open houses, or you can preview them with your lockbox key, as things begin to open up more, get out there and see it, because it's not the same in person. Online and in person do not look or feel the same. You don't get the full sense of the neighborhood until you're in the neighborhood. You don't know how things smell until you're inside the house. All of that's critical, right? So the final place we're going to wrap it up, and we're 2 minutes over, is the 10-4 activities are the activities that every single day I want you to complete while you're doing Ignite. And it's different online, because in the classroom, some of you who've taken previous versions of Ignite know that we would start the class by asking every single one of you to report out your numbers from the previous session. That level of accountability of saying, hey, how many people did you add to your database? How many people did you follow up with? And people would report out. And I would keep a tally on a big flip chart. And it was important because A, when you know you're going to have to report your numbers, you're more likely to actually do the action. B, when you do the action, you're more likely to develop the habit. And C, when you track the numbers, you're better able to check the conversion and see, how are these numbers, what are they telling me, right? How many contacts do I have to put in my database? How many people do I have to talk to get somebody to be willing to meet with me? The only way you know that is by tracking your numbers. And we'll talk about that throughout this course. But because of the way that Zoom is set up, I'm not asking you right now yet to track your numbers or to report your numbers. So the thing I'll just tell you is the way you play in here is the way you're going to play everywhere. If you're not going to do the activities, and look, you're only hurting yourself. This is really about helping you to develop the right habits, because success leaves clues. And I want you to do the things that successful people do so that you have the same kind of success that they have as well. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. I see 3 or 4 of you have had to jump. We're a little bit over time. Every class ends with me asking for ahas. And what an aha is, was there anything that you heard today that causes you to think differently or to feel differently about something? Or perhaps has sparked you to think about something that you're going to do differently? Remember, action is the only thing that causes transformation. But is there any ahas that you've had today through anything that we've talked about? I'd love to ask each class, I'd like to end it with maybe 2 or 3 ahas. And so if anyone would like to unmute or put that in the chat box, that would be great. I'd love to just get a sense of where your heads are today. Anybody? I gotta believe there was some ahas.
I think really getting to know your database, you know, we have, I mean, for me, speaking for myself, I don't know half of the people that I put on my phone.
Yeah.
It's first name only. And then and then I'm stuck with like, who is this person and why don't they have a last name? Or,
Yeah.
you know, just completing that's important. During COVID care calls, I started calling my phone, my database, and just saying, hey, you're on my phone. I was just updating my information, and I can't remember, you know, it's a silly conversation and it's embarrassing, but they laughed and, you know, gave me their info.
I am so glad that you touched on that, though, because, you know, the truth is it's awkward, isn't it? And for a lot of us, we duck that because nobody likes to feel silly. And yet, if you can kind of maintain your sense of humor about it and you kind of throw it out there, and I've done the same thing as I was cleaning up my phones, and we did it during these COVID calls. It's, hey, you know what? You're in my phone, and I got to tell you, you know, my bad, but I honestly, I can't quite picture, how did we meet? Where did we meet? And you know what? A lot of times they're like, dude, I don't even know who you are either. And you're like, okay,
Exactly.
then opportunity to reintroduce and start to rekindle that relationship. Or, you know, maybe it's somebody that you put in there that maybe they don't stay. I don't know. But the point is, getting to know your database is key. This course really dives deep into your database first, because that is where everything is, right? You know, the other aha I have, just between you and I, you have the coolest puppies. I just want you to know that.
Thank you so much.
And sometimes stalking the Facebook pictures, I'm like, God, her dogs are really cute.
Thank you.
Any other ahas today? Anybody, before we wrap up? All right, guys, I think a lot of people are jumping out now, so we're going to wrap it here. So your homework assignment, remember, do the activities, the 10-4 activities, 10 adds to your database, 10 follow-ups with people that you already have. And here's the thing I just want you to just, last thought. If you can't get to 10, try your best. The reason why we ask you to get to 10, because it's a pretty big number. And what I know is that if I ask you to try to get to 10 a day, you're likely to get to some every day. And that's really, really, really the most important thing. It's, are you consistently adding people to your database daily? Are you consistently talking to the people in your world daily? I want you to shoot for 10, because if you shoot for 10, you're going to get something. And the something is the thing that's really most important. So let's do these activities. Let's go online. Let's download the modules so that you have those. And let's download the toolkit so you have it. And then we're going to jump back in on Wednesday. We're going to pick it up from there. All right, guys, this will be recorded. This will show up on the YouTube channel, hopefully a little bit later on today, if you want to go back and revisit any of this. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. I do have an office hour at 1 o'clock on a different Zoom link, so just make sure you're on the right links for that. But if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, you just want to ask a one-on-one kind of question, that's what that office hour is for. So I'll be there at 1 o'clock. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again real soon. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Be well.